the Inquisitor's threatening brand. I saw the runes on your door. Next time you draw, remember to close the window. Valen's eyes are sharper than a falcon's. The sun was sinking steeply in the late afternoon, the light filtering through the garret cracks turning pale gold, yet it could not cut through the sudden tension that thickened the air. The first sign was the clanging of armor, rolling from the front hall like heavy drumbeats that made my fingertips prickle. I had just finished wiping clean my mother's herb grinder when a sharp voice cut through the corridor. It was Valen, his throat sounding like sandpaper, his call of my Lord Duke edged with unmistakable menace. I sprang up, pressing my ear to the garret door. The wood grain against my ear allowed me to clearly hear Samuel's voice, cold as ice. Does the Inquisitor forget the kingdom's laws, barging into my keep without summons? Laws? Valen sneered. The law for sheltering a witch, or the law for defying the church? A sharp clash of metal followed. I knew he had raised that brand again. Witnesses saw you bring the witch to your keep. I must see her today. If she is truly innocent, let her cast aside the wicked herbs from her sleeve before me. My heart clenched. I instinctively touched the satchel in my sleeve. The clean scent of mint remained, but now it felt like a searing iron, making my palms sweat. Valen was here to seize me. He cared nothing for proof. The moment he saw me, he would brand me a witch. Though the garret windows were boarded, there was a gap that hadn't been fully sealed. I rose on my toes and peered out, just catching sight of Samuel in the center of the front hall. His black cloak draped to the floor, the silver scepter gripped in his hand, his knuckles white with strain. Valen stood opposite, holding the familiar brand. The evil symbol glowed dull red. The heat wafted through the air, carrying a faint scorched scent even up to the garret. There is no witch in my keep, Samuel's voice rang out with unyielding authority. If you speak slander again, do not fault me for detaining you and your men under the charge of trespassing a noble's home. Detain me? Valen took a step forward, the brand nearly touching Samuel's cloak. Does the Duke wish to start a war with the church? The king knows you shelter the witch. If you do not yield her today, I shall report to the palace at once. Then, you will lose not only your military command, but this very keep. A cold dread ran through me. My fingers subconsciously traced patterns on the door. My mother had taught me to draw simple protective runes when in danger. Focusing on safety would make them glow faintly. My fingertips, still stained with herb juice from the morning's grinding, drew curving lines on the door. A pale green shimmer was just beginning when I heard soft footsteps behind me. I quickly hid my hands and turned to see Kane standing at the garret entrance, holding a tray with a cup of hot broth. His gaze fell on the door before shifting quickly to my face, his vigilance deeper than before. The Duke sent broth for you. He set the tray down, his voice hushed. Ignore the noise below, and for God's sake, do not leave. Valen brought a dozen soldiers, waiting to catch you in the act. I nodded, but saw his eyes drift back to the door, a frown crossing his brow. He saw the rune traces. I swiftly shielded the door with my body, whispering thank you, Captain, trying to dismiss him. But Kane stood his ground, staring at my hands for a moment before saying, you have herb juice on your hands. Do not draw those things on the door. Valen's men are just outside the keep. If they see it, the Duke will not be able to protect you. His words struck me like a thunderbolt. He had seen it. He knew they were runes. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms, but dared not refute him. Kane was Samuel's most trusted man. If he reported this to Valen, I was doomed. Just then, Martha's sobs reached us from the front hall. I pressed my ear to the door again, hearing her broken voice, my Lord Duke, I did not lie before. Ilara did give my daughter herbs, and she called it the dark art of life extension. There. Valen's voice immediately rose. Even her neighbor confirms it. Does the Duke still intend to shield her? I trembled with rage. Martha knew I had given her daughter medicine for the plague. How could she lie for Valen? Tears nearly fell, but then Martha suddenly paused, her voice laced with hesitation. But my daughter died of the plague. It had nothing to do with the herbs. And that day, Alara said if she had more mint, she might save her. What nonsense are you talking about? Valen interrupted, his voice sharp. Did I not tell you to simply say she poisoned her? Martha's cries grew louder. I cannot lie. My daughter is gone. I cannot be responsible for harming an innocent soul. The front hall fell silent. I guessed Samuel had seized this breach. Sure enough, his voice soon followed, laced with scorn. The Inquisitor cannot tell plague from poison, yet dares to investigate a witch? The dull thud of his scepter hitting the floor followed. Cain, escort the Inquisitor and his men out. Henceforth, no man of the church shall set foot in the Duke's keep without my explicit permission. A commotion of soldiers followed, then Valen's roar. Samuel. You can shelter her for a time, but not forever. As long as she remains in Verona, I will find her and deliver her to the stake. The footsteps faded, and the candles in the front hall dimmed. I sighed in relief, collapsing onto the floor, realizing my back was soaked with cold sweat. Martha had spoken the truth, but Valen's threat coiled around my heart like a viper. He would not give up. As long as I lived, he would hound me. The garret door was pushed open. Cain walked in. He still held the empty tray, but ignored me, walking straight to the door and pointing at the faint, pale green rune traces. I saw the runes on your door. His voice was quiet, yet utterly serious. Next time you draw, remember to close the window. Valen's men's eyes are sharper than a falcon's. If they see this, not only will you be seized, but the Duke will be brought down with you. I looked up at him. His eyes no longer held the previous suspicion, but a new, complex emotion. He was warning me, not reporting me. Thank you, I whispered. Cain did not reply. He turned to leave, but paused at the door. The Duke forbade me from telling you, but he has already sent a messenger to the palace to explain his actions to the king. You should behave yourself and not let his efforts be for nothing. The door was softly closed. Silence returned to the garret. I looked at the traces of the rune, remembering Samuel holding me at the stake, the warmth of his palm, and his command, do not fall off. He had been protecting me all along, even if it meant defying the church and risking his standing with the king. But Valen's threat echoed, you can shelter her for a time, but not forever. Could I truly hide in the Duke's keep indefinitely? If Valen reported to the king, would the king believe Samuel, or would he surrender me to appease the church? The candlelight suddenly flickered, casting my lonely shadow on the wall, like one abandoned by the world. I reached out and touched the rune on the door, with one thought, I cannot let Samuel lose his command and his keep because of me. The secret of the old wound and the herbs. Your fingertips are warmer than the salve, do not be afraid. I will not treat your herbs as dark arts, as Valen does. The wind of the late evening carried the deepest chill of winter, making the garret boards moan softly. I had just put the dried marigold into the wooden chest when a hurried knocking, not the previous soft tap, but a panicked bang-bang rattled the rune traces on the door. Miss Alara. Come down, quickly. It was the stewardess' voice, trembling and breathless. The Lord Duke's old wound has flared up. He is in such pain, he has collapsed. The court physicians are helpless. Can you save him? My heart plummeted. An old wound? Was it the scar on Samuel's left cheek? Without a second thought, I grabbed the satchel from my sleeve and rushed downstairs. The wind from my haste made the corridor candles flicker, casting shadows that danced wildly on the walls like a flock of frantic moths. Passing the front hall, I saw Cain at the stairwell, his face paler than the stewardess. He stepped forward instantly. "Follow me. The study is at the end of the west corridor. Do not waste a moment." His stride was fast. The clanging of his armor mixed with my footsteps, loud in the silent keep. I sensed his deep anxiety, normally so vigilant around me. He offered no word of doubt now, only urging me forward. Samuel must truly be in a terrible state. The study door was ajar, candlelight flickering wildly within. Cain pushed the door open, and I saw Samuel at once. He was slumped over the wide mahogany desk, his black cloak draped on the chair, the cloth over his left shoulder soaked in dark red blood, like a flower blooming in the night. His head rested on his arm, his golden hair obscuring most of his face. Only the deep war scar was visible, gleaming cold in the candlelight. The physician said the wound has residual arrow poison. It flares up with every change of weather. This time, the pain was so severe, he fainted, Cain whispered. The Duke forbade us from telling anyone, especially you. He feared you would. He trailed off, instinctively looking at the satchel of herbs in my hand. I walked to the desk and knelt. Samuel's breathing was heavy, his brow deeply furrowed. He was enduring pain even in unconsciousness, his knuckles white. I gently lifted the cloak from his shoulder. The bandage was saturated with blood, the edges stained with dried black clots, the residue of arrow poison. My mother had taught me that such poison required the coolness of mint to neutralize, and the essence of marigold to promote healing. Ordinary salves were useless. I need mint, marigold, a clean mortar, and warm water, I told Cain, my voice steadier than usual. Quickly. His wound cannot wait. Cain turned and swiftly returned with a tray, holding everything I asked for, including a small pewter apothecary jar. I sat on the chair beside Samuel, placing the mint and marigold in the mortar, slowly grinding them into a fine powder. The gentle grinding sound was clear in the silent study. I sensed Samuel's breathing ease slightly, perhaps soothed by the fresh scent of the herbs. As I mixed the powder into the warm water to form a salve, a touch of it adhered to my fingertip, cool and faintly bitter with mint. I took a clean cotton cloth and gently wiped the clotted blood from Samuel's wound, moving slowly. His skin was cold, entirely different from the warmth of his usual palm. The muscles around the wound still twitched slightly, clearly still in pain. Hold fast, it will be over soon, I whispered, speaking to him as much as to myself. When I applied the salve to the wound, Samuel's body suddenly stiffened. I thought he was waking and stopped my hand, but he merely frowned, his breathing remaining heavy. As I was wrapping the fresh bandage, my fingertip accidentally brushed the skin not covered by the wound. It was warm, carrying his signature scent of leather and gunpowder. I flinched as if burned, immediately trying to pull my hand back, only to meet his suddenly opened eyes. Samuel's gaze held the confusion of awakening, his deep brown pupils reflecting the candlelight and my own face. We were close, so close I could see the red lines in his eyes and feel the warmth of his breath. He did not speak, simply staring at me. I froze, the bandage in my hand, my fingertips still resting on his skin. We remained locked in place, the only sound the sizzle of the burning candles. Your salve, it is the same as your mother's, he finally spoke, his voice hoarse, yet gentler than usual. 20 years ago in the Northlands, I was struck by an enemy-poisoned arrow. It was your mother who secretly came to the camp and saved my life with the same mint and marigold. My heartbeat instantly accelerated. The bandage nearly slipped from my fingers. He did know my mother. He saved me not for utility, but for my mother's long ago kindness. You knew I was her daughter all along? He nodded, raising a hand as if to touch my hair, but stopping mid-air to touch his bandaged shoulder instead. The moment you shouted my mother saved wounded soldiers at the stake, I knew. Your mother once said she would only pass her herbal art to her daughter. And she said, if her daughter were ever in danger, I must look after her. So that was it. I clenched the bandage. Tears unexpectedly fell, spotting his cloak, creating a small wet patch. Not from fear, but from the relief that someone finally knew my mother was not a witch and remembered her kindness. A hema cough suddenly sounded from the corridor cane. It was clearly a deliberate warning. I hastily pulled my hand away, wrapping the bandage quickly. I tried to stand to leave, but Samuel suddenly gripped my wrist. His palm was warm with his recovering body heat. His grip was not tight, yet it kept me from breaking free. I looked up at him. His eyes lacked their usual coldness, replaced by an unsettling tenderness, like the candlelight in the study, a warmth that made me nervous. "Do not run," he said, his voice hushed. "Valen has not left. His men surround the keep. If you leave now, you will be seized. You are safe only when you are with me." I looked into his eyes, remembering the mortar in the garret, his defiance of Valen to protect me, and the pressure of his hand on my wrist. It was not a command, but a plea, a protection. The coolness of the salve still lingered on my fingertips, yet I felt a flush of heat, my breath quickening. The study candles flickered, casting our shadows on the wall, entwined like two inseparable lines. Cain coughed again. I tried to pull free of Samuel's grasp, but he spoke again, close to my ear. "Your fingertips are warmer than the salve. Do not be afraid. I will not treat your herbs as dark arts, as Valen does." His voice was soft, yet it flowed through all my anxieties like a warm current. I looked at the bandage on his shoulder and the hand gripping my wrist, suddenly realizing that this Duke's keep might not be a cage, but truly the only place that could shelter me. Would you like me to continue the story, exploring the shift in Alara and Samuel's relationship now that the secret is revealed?